Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and with everything going on in the NHL, we have some rumors to get into. With all of that going on, we are going to take a look at Jakob Chychrun. This is a guy that I just made a video the other day on. It's actually doing very well, so thank you guys for watching that video. But we're going to take a look at the latest on Chychrun, the real contenders that seem to be interested in him at this moment. We're also going to be taking a look at the situation in Chicago with Marc-Andre Fleury. He's a pending unrestricted free agent, and he may go cup chasing. So where would he be a good fit? And we're also going to take a look at the Evander Kane situation. There seems to be some potential interest in the player that is now in the AHL in Evander Kane, so we'll be going over all of that. So let's start off with the situation in Chicago. So from Kevin Allen, Marc-Andre Fleury would be a desirable trade option for a team like Colorado or Edmonton. Now, this is definitely not any bit of a real surprise. Now, the thing is, the Blackhawks have actually done a lot better here over the past couple of weeks, and they may start to change their mind on that full-on sell mode. Now, I don't know what the management is thinking. This is the first time we are going to see this management. Again, Stan Bowman's been there for almost 2 decades, so what I would expect from the Blackhawks organization in terms of tendencies when they would trade guys, do whatever, it's totally different now. Everything's off the table. So you do wonder if they're still going to be looking at a Marc-Andre Fleury trade. Now, obviously, the Avalanche are in the conversation. Darcy Kemper's been better as of late, but as long as the price tag is somewhat, attractive enough, I would say that the Avalanche would be interested. The Oilers, though, I think would be more desperate and willing to give up more. They currently have Mikko Koskinen and Stuart Skinner as their goaltending tandem. I don't think they're all too confident in that. And you look at what they've done here through the month of December, you could attribute the lack of goaltending or really some real competent goaltending being the reason that the Oilers are at. So in terms of the most likely destination as of today, I would say that the Oilers would probably be at the top of the list for a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury. Again, that's if they decide to trade him, which more likely than not they will. Also from Kevin Allen, this is an update on Evander Kane. So the San Jose Sharks forward has kind of gotten back into the conversation of a guy that could be traded. NHL teams have been watching Evander Kane, and a trade is more likely than before. Now, I think with this whole Evander Kane situation, I think a lot of teams were kind of waiting for things to blow over. I think there was a lot of stuff going on, obviously, with his ex-wife. So that now that that's kind of cleared out just a little bit, I think it's made it more of, it's not as bad in terms of PR bringing in Evander Kane. You could probably get him for a lot cheaper than you could have at the beginning of this past summer. He's going to be a lot easier to get, especially with his contract. A team that brings in Kane is going to have leverage in a trade now. He's a very talented hockey player. Nobody's really doubting that. It's all the stuff off the ice and all the stuff that's been, reported in terms of his ability to be a good player in the locker room. Other than that, though, he is a very talented player. Now, you bring him in an organization where there's a lot of veterans, that can kind of keep him in his place. I look at, honestly, the New York Islanders. I look at the Boston Bruins, teams that could use some scoring depth, that have, true guys that are in that locker room already. I could see him actually being a decent fit there. But again, at that $7 million cap hit for the next couple years, that is going to be something that definitely deters a couple of those teams. And now with that said, we're getting to the exciting one. So we're hearing the latest about Jakob Chychrun. And Jakob Chychrun's kind of an interesting player in regards to he is a very talented defenseman. And the fact that he has 3 years left in the summer of 2025 is when his new deal will kick in. He has not signed that, obviously. He's making $4.5 million per season. That is a really, really good contract for, I would argue, a top 15 defenseman, if not top 10 defenseman in the NHL. And again, if you put him in a better spot than Arizona, that's going to be the real test. Now, I could see this coming along the terms of what we saw. I'm trying to think, what was that, 2014, 2015? When the New York Rangers traded for Keith Yandle. That that kind of deal might come to fruition. Obviously, things didn't really work out for both sides, but you could see that kind of package. I mean, I remember trying to remember who was in that deal. I think it was a defenseman, a first-round pick, a former first-round pick, Anthony Duclair. I think there could be a lot in that deal for Jakob Chychrun. So this is going to be a more modern version of that sort of deal. So we'll see what happens. But according to Elliot Friedman, a couple of teams that he thinks are interested, the Oilers, Bruins, Canadiens, Flyers, Islanders, and Kings could be good fits for Jakob Chychrun. So it's not that teams have actually reached out over the past week about Jakob Chychrun. It's just teams that he think would be a good fit. But we have heard in the past that the Islanders have shown expressed interest last summer in Jakob Chychrun. So that has not been that far removed. It's only been about 5 or 6 months since then. So that could definitely be on the horizon again at some point. And that's why the Islanders waited so long to sign some of their players. They were kind of probably waiting to see what was going to happen with Jakob Chychrun, which is kind of mind-blowing, but that's Lou Lamoriello, right? And this is also from Friedman. He wonders if the Canucks could be one of the teams that could do it for Jakob Chychrun. Now, the problem is the Canucks have not had a ton of playoff success. So for Jakob Chychrun to say, yeah, I want to go to Vancouver, that might be a little bit harder of a sell. Now, the good thing is the Vancouver Canucks are no longer in the Coyotes division. They're in a separate division now, and that may make it just slightly more attractive for the Coyotes to make that move. But again, you're probably looking at teams that kind of get thrown in, and they're probably not going to make moves with. Vegas, Anaheim. I mean, again, LA was thrown in there. Again, they're not in their division anymore. So I think that's definitely something that we're going to keep an eye on. And then this is from Nick Kyprios, right? This is a pretty interesting thought. The Maple Leafs would definitely be interested in Jakob Chychrun if he was made available. Now, obviously, it's not saying all that much, but obviously the Leafs want to add somebody like that. Now, the problem is they kind of can't look down that route because they just re-signed Morgan Riley. So because they invested in Morgan Riley so early in the game, now they kind of can't go and take a big swing at a guy like Chychrun. They've kind of bought into that. All right, we're keeping Riley. We're keeping the boys together. And now you kind of exclude yourself from a situation where you could bring in a guy like Chychrun. Again, unless you're trading Nylander, unless you're trading Marner or one of those. I mean, imagine they traded Matthews, right? But, obviously I'm kidding when I say that, but they're going to have to trade some money off the books. They have way too much there. So if you're going to make that move, you're going to have to move one of the bigger guys, because in a couple years, his contract is going to be a problem. So that 4.5 right now, not a big deal. You're going to have to, and the thing is too with the Coyotes, they're going to be looking for salary to add back to their roster just so they fit above the caps, above the cap floor. So that is definitely something we are going to be keeping an eye on. With that said, I think a lot of this stuff is going to be kind of coming into fruition over the next couple of weeks, next couple of months. The NHL trade deadline is March 16th of 2022, so mark that off your calendars. I plan on doing a live stream that day, so that should be pretty exciting. But yeah, like I said, the Evander Kane situation, I kind of had the sense that this would come up at some point because the Sharks just don't want to keep that contract. I think he's already kind of, it's kind of water under the bridge at this point. So I hope that gets resolved at some point. Marc-Andre Fleury, I think this is an interesting development because of the recent success of the Blackhawks. Do the Blackhawks still consider themselves a team that could maybe sneak into the playoffs? Or maybe they're thinking, well, we don't want to just sneak into the playoffs if we're going to lose in the first round. There's no point, right? So we might as well trade Fleury, get assets, and not get booted in the first round. So there's a couple things on the table there in Chicago. We've obviously heard some things about, Jonathan Toews' lack of production. Could that lead to a trade? Patrick Kane, obviously that's going to be thrown out there as he's a guy from Buffalo. Would he want to go to the Buffalo Sabres right now? That kind of stuff is going to be thrown out there. And obviously Jakob Chychrun, we just talked about him the other day, but I think that's a hot ticket item right now. And obviously that's a big name. So the fact that that's being discussed, we obviously have to address the latest news in that regard. So that is it for today's video, guys. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, more videos just like this one, you guys know what to do. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, as always, Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.